So the article I chose is from the New York Times, and it's the way we ration ventilators is biased. Not every patient has a fair chance. It was posted April 15th, 2020. Ventilators are obviously the resources being allocated. Um, so there's a case that is presented in the article, and it talks about John, a 40-year-old white man, Rosa, a 45-year-old African American, and Linda, a white 56-year-old woman with Down syndrome. And I forgot to mention this, the 45-year-old African American has underlying health conditions. And just goes on to talk about how overall they're going to end up choosing John to allocate the resource to, which although like he may have no underlying conditions or anything, it's still like a very likely chance that they all could survive from the disease. And it's just not fair that the system is so colorblind. Um, the ethical principles driving this resource allocation would be beneficence and justice because they do want to do no harm and do what is fair, but there's just never going to be a perfect way to allocate during the pandemic, such as COVID-19. So they are trying to do their best to like make the most people survive, but it's just very, very colorblind, as I said. So the article also talks about how like the standard method for rationing ventilators recognizes racial and other discrimination is not acceptable, but there still needs to be modifications. So some modifications I proposed is look more at underlying conditions, not at life expectancy, which the current system does take into consideration heavily, and considering age, which is going to cause issues still, and then past surgeries. But the reason I say age is because people who are older normally have a lower chance of survival with COVID. And then past surgeries could affect just like your survival and like how strong your organs are in your body. Same ethical principles would support this, justice and beneficence, just trying to do no harm, but again, just not ever going to be a perfect system. And the one I would end up supporting is the one I proposed, probably just because it's maybe a little bit more fair, I don't know, but I think just looking at like the less discrimination aspect of it against race, another thing, but the discrimination against age could definitely be an issue with this method as well. So I don't know, I just don't think there's ever going to be the perfect way to go about rationing ventilators.